Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatles Beatles channel. How you all doing? I hope you're doing well. Um, First things first, big thank you to all the new subscribers. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks to everyone for all their comments on all the other videos. If you're seeing this channel for the first time, please give the video a like. Subscribe to the channel by clicking the button down there somewhere. Hit the notification button so you don't miss anything. All that usual stuff. Today we're going to be talking about the extra material on the Let It Be box set, so not the main album, we've already reviewed that. We're going to have a look at the extra stuff. And by the extra stuff, we're going to be talking about this album, which is the Apple Sessions and the Jams and Rehearsals, the Get Back Glyn John's mix, and the Apple EP. So I get it that there's probably there probably isn't a fan that isn't saying, why wasn't this on it and why wasn't that on it, with particular regard to, why haven't we got the whole rooftop concert as an LP on its own, with all the takes that they did on the roof, and I agree. It's a really valid point. I noticed that Giles Martin in an interview said that that they're saving that for the for the Get Back movie that's going to be on later this month, and he excused that by saying that the rooftop concert is like any live performance, it benefits from the from the visuals of seeing the video of it, which in some respects is a valid comment. But what he's actually saying there is that any live album that's ever been out is not worth anything because there's no video, which is complete nonsense, in my opinion. Anyway, we're going to get into what we did get, and I'd really like to know your opinions of what you think of all the extra material. Are you happy with what we got? What is it that you wanted that's not here? And just your general overview. I think we kind of think that probably the set is overpriced. Well, I do anyway. I think that the EP could probably have been it would have been quite nice to have it as a 7-inch, I think, or they could have filled it up with other stuff. There's hours and hours of this stuff that could have been put on it. But anyway, let's get on to the first LP. This one, which I really like the way that they did this, rather than put all the LPs, just in a polyline sleeve in a box. They've made all of them into like proper albums inside. So this one kind of replicates the American Let It Be that came out in 1970. Obviously, the pictures on the back are now on the front. The pictures that are on the front are now on the back. And it's white instead of black, but it kind of follows that format. But I do like the fact that they put it into an LP sort of shaped thing. So I'm not going to talk about every single track, but I'm just going to talk about the things that I really liked about these mixes. So the first track that of note that I thought was the of take 4 of Two of Us, which is on the Apple Sessions we'll talk about the Apple sessions first. And it's a nice laid back version, and that you can see that they're feeling their way through the songs. Nice harmonies, lots of mistakes, but that kind of adds to the charm. The Maggie May with "Fancy Me Chances with You" is obviously just a straight bust, but if you didn't know, the Fancy Me Chance with You is actually an old Lennon McCartney song, and it's quite one of the interesting things about this whole set is the lack of original material that didn't make the album. Like, what I mean is, an outstanding songs that didn't make the cut. Like, for example, there's no Not Guilty here, and there's no What's the New Mary Jane. So that's that sort of stuff is I'm talking about. So there's no sort of excess material, sort of anything of note that they did, came out on, I think on the album or on in this version. So there were, we kind of know that John, didn't really have enough songs for this album, and generally there was, a little bit of a lack of, original material. Can You Dig It? I quite like this version on here. It's quite groovy. It's not the version that's on the Glyn John's mix or the one that's on the proper album. It's totally different. They did another version of this song, which was about 12 minutes long, of which we get about 4 minutes of that version on the Glyn John's mix, and from that version, there's a section when they get into it for about eight minutes, where the 50 seconds that Phil Spector used on his the original album comes from that, and but the little bit of studio banter, that was Can You Dig It by Georgie Wood, that comes from this take, and it was used on the Glyn John's mix for his take, and it was used on the Phil Spector one as well. So that was quite interesting. The For You Blue, take 4, it's a really nice take of the song. An interesting, the thing that's interesting for me about this is this was a song before they played around with the sound on the piano, where they put bits of paper on in between the hammers and stuff. So it's kind of got the like original sort of piano on it. Another one was the version of Let It Be that kind of joins into the sort of cabaret version of Please Please Me. Is a really nice sort of bare bones version of that, sort of without the bells and whistles. So I quite like that. I got a feeling, take 10 of I Got a Feeling, a bit faster than the sort of the Phil Spector take that was used, but it is fully complete and it does sound great, but it's not quite as good as the version that they used on the Phil Spector album. Dig a Pony, take 14, which doesn't have the sort of the heaviness of the finished Phil Spector version, but it does give you a great chance to hear Billy Preston's keyboard work on this song, which was quite heavily mixed down in the mix on the Phil Spector version. So it's nice to be able to hear that. And they really should have kept that line, I dog a bony. What a great line. They should have kept that. And so that is that version. We get back take 19, which we hear the sort of the reprise for the Get Back reprise on the Glyn John's mix, this is the whole take of that version. And there's One After 909, take 3, which is a much more sort of, it's a more raucous version than the one that we're used to, with Billy Preston playing, you know, an upright piano rather than a electric piano. So that's quite nice. Don't Let Me Down, the first rooftop version, which was one of the pre-release songs. It just sounds fantastic. And this is the version that we see in the actual film where he sings the words wrong. And Let It Be Naked used part of this song and part of the other take that they did on the roof for the version on Let It Be Naked, which is quite interesting. Long and Winding Road, take 19, is just a simply beautiful version. I think this is really the only song where you can say that an outtake is better than the released version, and this one was used in the film as well. So it's a really lovely version. The Wake Up Little Susie and I Me Mine take 11, which is that's the version. I think the interesting thing about that is the bit that George says, you know, you may have read that Dave D is no longer with us, you know, referring to John not being there, is used on this version, and it was snipped and used at the start of the song that they used on Anthology 3. So that was quite an interesting thing, I thought about it. And for me, this Apple Sessions is really the highlight of the unreleased material for me. But I'm interested to hear what you think, what your favourite bits are. So moving on to the sort of the jams and rehearsals. Here we've got much more familiar, songs that didn't make the Let It Be album, but they came into play later, either on solo albums or on Abbey Road, with a few other bits mixed in as well. The All Things Must Pass version, I really like this because it's really, I think it's really nice to hear George, teaching it to the others, and some really nice harmonies from John and Paul going on in there, and what you actually hear, live, if you like in the studio, is John coming up with the line, "A mind can pass those clouds away," which I thought was really interesting, and George likes it, and I think that maybe they gave this a more of a go than sort of George gave credit for. He said that they weren't really interested in it, but I think that they gave it a good go. Give Me Some Truth, interesting to hear that there. And what is really interesting about that is, you can tell that it was fully intended to be a Beatles tune, with John, asking Paul to help him write, his part. So, that was interesting. Then we've got a version of I Me Mine, which has that sort of flamenco type guitar in the middle, where the chorus would be much later, but they just he hasn't come up with the chorus yet. So it's got this sort of interesting flamenco guitar sort of instrumental bit there. And I think this was used in the film. It's that scene where you see John and Yoko waltzing around the studio. And then we get some Abbey Road stuff, and she came in through the bathroom window. I was quite disappointed to see this taking up space on this album, because we already have this version on Anthology 3. Having said that, this is a much better sounding mix than we got on our Anthology 3, which is 20 odd years ago. So there's that, I suppose, but there was so much material. We have to have repetition of stuff we already got. Probably not. There's a couple more Abbey Road tracks. There's Polythene Pam and Oh Darling, which again we get in the Anthology 3 version, but again with better sound quality and about a minute longer here than on the Anthology. And then it's quite interesting to hear the very embryo of Ringo playing Octopus's Garden on the piano. To the others, he's only really got the first couple of lines, and you can hear much laughter from John and Paul, which is a little bit unkind. But you do hear George, trying to work out the next part of the verse for him. Another interesting song on this is Without a Song, the Billy Preston, which is Billy Preston singing with John and Ringo sort of accompanying it, and it's great. And I just love the fact that Billy Preston is on this. Was on these sessions. I kind of think of it like if the Beatles were a couple whose marriage had kind of gone a little bit stale and a little bit boring. They've kind of brought in like a third person, like for a threesome, a bit of a threesome, and that third person, which is really a fifth person, is Billy Preston. And that's kind of what I kind of think of his, of his introduction into this close knit circle is all about, and things were all the better for him being there and them being on their best behaviour when he was around. And I just love this Without a Song. His voice, fantastic, really, really great. And then we get another Abbey Road song, Something, where interesting thing. George is asking Paul, what can it be, Paul, when he's talking about attracts me, something in the way she moves, attracts me like what? And then John pipes up cauliflower, and George ends up using pomegranate. I'm not sure it would have been quite the song it was if he'd stuck with pomegranate, but there you go. There's another great take of Let It Be, take 28, which is the one used in the film on this part of the rehearsal disc, which is really great. And that's all I'm going to cover on that disc. Again, want to know what your highlights are, what's missing, just tell me what you think. So moving on to the Get Back, Glyn John's mix. We're going to talk about that as a sort of an overview of this. Firstly, I want to say the sound quality is excellent. It sounds really great. We know now that what we've got isn't entirely the 1969 mix. There's bits of the 1970 mix chopped in there, but for the benefit of better sound. So what we've got is a trade-off here. We've got a trade-off of historical content versus the best possible sound, and I think in this case, I think that getting the best possible sound is probably more important than the historical value of having the entire 1969 mix, because we want this record to sound as good as it possibly can, I think. So when you listen to this, you can hear the reasons exactly why this mix was rejected. You can point to better takes existing of pretty much every song, apart from you know, One After 909, Let It Be, For You Blue, and Get Back, because they were the same takes were used on the Phil Spector versions, but obviously it was Phil Spector's mix. But you know, the Beatles, they wanted a live feel and they wanted studio chatter, and that's what they got. You know, that was Glyn John's remit, and that's what he gave them. But you know, this album is just so loose. I mean, the takes that he used, you know, that you know, there's lots and lots of errors throughout it. So it gives us that. So he gets that loose feel, but almost on to the point of unprofessionalism. I mean, this was never going to be accepted as you know, as a Beatles album, just because of the amount of mistakes. And I think there's too much of the sort of the false, you know, the false starts and the inconsequential chatter. I think it's all right having chatter if it kind of, you know, if it's something historical or something funny, but I think there's just too much of it, really. It's as if he's kind of, you know, taken all these hours and hours of tapes and, you know, just picked a random version of each song and just, you know, stuck it on an acetate, you know, film, and presented that as as the album. Having said that, I'm glad that we have got this as an official release and that it's, you know, it sounds so good. So just a few sort of high points for me on this. One After 909. It's the same take as the as on the Phil Spector version, and it is a belter. And it's notable on this that the first line in the first verse after the solo, John's voice is almost inaudible, which was corrected on the Phil Spector mix. And it also this is the song that has the famous, you know, like to thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, hope we passed the audition. That appears after this song and not after Get Back as it does on the Phil Spector album. Don't Let Me Down, you know, is a highlight for me of this set. It is such a great song, and it is inexplicable that this song was left off the album, because it really would have enhanced the album. It's, you know, it's just such a fantastic song. Teddy Boy, again we get part of this song part of this take is the version that we've already got on Anthology 3, but it is much better sound again. There's a version of Two of Us on there which is slightly slower, and the harmonies are highlighted even more because of the slower tempo. But the take is sort of, you know, it's laden with errors, especially vocally, where John and Paul are singing different words at the same time. The version of Let It Be is the same one as on the Phil Spector album, same take, obviously different mix, and so if you like, this really is Let It Be naked without all the Phil Spector bits on it, but the solo was overdubbed. The Long and Winding Road, again, is the same take as on the album, but without all the fluff. There are overdubs on the Phil Spector version, but it's only mostly it's Ringo's drums that are overdubbed on Phil Spector's version from this take. But there is a couple of lines of vocals that are overdubbed as well. The Many Times I've Been Alone line is overdubbed on this. So that was the sort of the highlights of the Glyn Johns mix for me. You know, do tell me yours. And we're going to get finally on to the EP. And yeah, we know 4 tracks, great big record. Could have been a 7-inch. I think kept the cost down. I kind of understand why the songs on here have been separated, because they don't really fit into any of the other. They're not the Apple sessions. They're not rehearsals. They're not the 1969 Glyn John's mix. So they don't kind of fit into any of the other albums. But they could have, stuck a load more stuff on this LP or the CD, or they could have just given it as a 7-inch. Kept the because they've replicated how Apple singles used to be. They used to be like that, but obviously, a 45 7-inch single, that's what, so they could have made it just like that, in my opinion. But what do we get? We get Across the Universe, with no strings, no choir. It's this is the Glyn John's 1970 mix. It's got that All Right Richie intro from John, which we hear on the version that's on the White Album box set, and we get I Mean Mine, which the Glyn John's 1970 mix, which is very, very echoey. I thought we get a new mix from Giles Martin on the studio, the B-side version of Don't Let Me Down, which sounds great, and a remix of the single version of Let It Be by Giles Martin. And that's it, and that's everything. That's all I really wanted to talk about. So please do, you tell me what you're upset about, or what's missing, but mostly tell me about the things that you really loved on this album. I mean, as a box set, I do love it. I embrace its failings, but I also embrace its triumphs. I have really, really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that we've got it. So that's really my summing up. That's my last word really on the Let It Be box sets. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new to it. Give the video a like. Thanks very much again. Thanks very much for watching. That's been quite a long video. And I'll see you on the next video. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.